And I think most of us at some point are in that position, and we have to be very self-aware of it to get ourselves out of that position.
We'll find ourselves in the space of always playing to win in our decisions, the things we're doing. We're saying yes, and then we're executing.
So playing not to lose is a big difference versus playing to win.
Matt Weaver, the #1 mortgage originator in the United States for most loans closed in 2023 and #1 in the state of Florida from 2020 to present, has spent over 27 years mastering the purchase market, earning more than 16 #1 titles across his career. Max Fisch, 2024's #1 originator in the United States under 30 and #2 in the state of Florida, achieved those titles within just 5 years of entering the mortgage industry, compressing decades of growth into a few extraordinary years. Collectively, they've helped more than 40,000 families purchase their first home. Now partners and looking to improve the industry on a national scale, Matt and Max share their winning formula, team structure, and systems with originators who want to scale from elite to extraordinary levels.
So Matt, good to be back with you.
Always.
I got a question for you.
Yes.
Would you say that most originators are analytical people?
Oh, 100%. I mean, if you look at the base of what it is that we do for work, it's facts and figures, it's interest rates. So the nature of an originator would be an analytical person.
It's interesting because I would agree. And when we think about analytical people, a lot of the times when it comes to making decisions, especially let's forget the personal decisions, but especially the decisions in their professional life, analytical people, myself included, especially when I first got into the industry, can find themselves in this analytical gridlock when it comes to making decisions.
Yes.
But what happens if this goes wrong, or what if I don't do this, or what if this doesn't happen, or what if they don't like me, etc. The list goes on and on. And it's so interesting because when we find ourselves in that gridlock, a lot of the time it can keep us from actually focusing on what could go right.
Yes.
Or what that might do for our business, the wins that it can provide. And so I'm excited about our conversation today because we're going to discuss a lot of the key concepts and the mindset behind focusing on the wins that can come from a situation or an opportunity rather than what can go wrong. And I know that you have a near story to that, and you can speak to that personally and professionally.
Yeah. I mean, well, when you think about it, essentially what we're saying here is playing to win versus playing not to lose.
1,000%.
Playing to win versus playing not to lose. I would think that most analytical people, by the way, myself included, I just happen to be a little bit more self-aware of it, and I'm very cognizant of it over the past, we're going to say 10 years, primarily because of really understanding the personality quadrants. You know, my mentor, Mike Ferry, as you know, stresses understanding the 4 personality quadrants. And of course, analytical being one of those. And analytical people are risk-averse people. We're typically playing scared. So playing not to lose is a big difference versus playing to win. Playing not to lose is essentially more risk adverse, playing more scared versus looking at the opportunity of how can we win. Let's go through an example on that. So as you know, we're expanding in other markets in Florida.
Okay.
So we look at, let's say, whether it be Orlando or Tampa, Sarasota.
Yeah.
Playing not to lose would say, well, if we go there, will they receive us well? Can we do one of our luncheon series there? What if we don't fill the room? What if there's only a few that show up? Whatever it may be. So that's playing not to lose because we don't have to go there. But if we're playing to win, we're going to say we want to go there. It's going to help our team. It's going to help our business. It's going to help us spread the good word to the great agents that we're trying to do business with. So we're going to look at going to Orlando. We're going to say, how do we just figure out how to get in front of this great audience? So that's playing to win versus playing not to lose.
And speaking of Mike, wasn't there a story that he kind of opened your eyes to this concept about, wasn't there that story? Can you share that?
No question. Mike and I were arranging one of our biggest events we've ever done together. This is probably about 7 or 8 years ago. And and this is when I first started doing events with Mike. And, it was a big thing for me. It's still a big thing for me to this day. But obviously, we're starting to get to know each other. So it was even bigger back then because, I'm just getting to know Mike more on a personal level. So we were planning out this extraordinary event. I'll never forget it. I'm looking at the calendar because we scrubbed the calendar up against all the different real estate companies and what events they have, just so we're not conflicting, ideally. Okay.
Yeah.
And one of the major real estate brands was having their family reunion, okay, KW
Yeah.
at the time. So, of course, it takes a lot of agents away. KW has an extraordinary job, and they have tens of thousands of agents that show up. So I called Mike and I said, the date that we selected for our major event, all right, I noticed that there's a family reunion that KW is doing. Can we maybe slide the event back a week or maybe do it, in advance of? And I'll never forget what Mike said. He said, you're focusing on who's not there, and I'm focusing on who's there.
Mm.
And it was at that point in time that it changed my mindset on the matter of really trying as an analytical to focus on the positive, the win on something versus what will the loss be. So you see, in that circumstance, Mike was playing to win and I was playing not to lose. And there's a big difference there.
And that can be projected on our professional life with almost every decision that we make.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, we don't want to be reckless in our decisions, but when we're playing to win, it shifts our mind because it's almost like that old analogy where it's glass half empty or glass half full.
Right.
It shifts your mind into thinking about the positive, the things that can go right. And then you live in that space, that creative space, and it can turn into extraordinary things. I mean, if we think about it, the people that have achieved extraordinary things, they were playing to win. They were thinking about what could go right.
Yeah.
Let's just use a crazy example. Okay. Mark Zuckerberg with Facebook.
Right.
He could have talked himself out of that idea 10 ways to Sunday.
Oh, maybe 100 ways.
Okay, think about it. But he just saw what it could be. He had a vision and just continued to execute.
Yeah.
I look at sports, for example, and we can draw a basketball parallel. We can draw football parallels. We could draw in any sport, really. But in football specifically, what happens a lot of the time is when people are watching a football game, they look at the game and they say, oh, this incredible comeback. It's crazy. This one team was dominating for 3 quarters. And then in the 4th quarter, they just gave up the lead. Well, more oftentimes than not, it's because their entire game plan changed.
Right.
You see, when the game started, they were playing to win. They weren't playing not to lose. But then they got a lead. And in the 4th quarter, they started to play not to lose. They weren't being aggressive. They gave up the game plan that they had because they said, okay, we have this comfortable lead. Now, what parallel can we draw to that as originators? When we talk about the mindset of being number one, okay, or being the best that we can look at it and say one of two things. Wow, I'm dominating my market. I have a pretty good cushion, so I can let my foot off the gas pedal a little bit.
Right.
And what happens there? The margin starts to get closer, closer, closer. And before you know it, a snap of a finger, somebody's playing to win while you're playing not to lose.
Correct.
And you get passed up.
Right.
Whereas in our industry, it's so easy to get caught up in that. But if we're intentional about it, if we're paying attention to our business and we never let our foot off the gas pedal, okay, we'll find ourselves in the space of always playing to win in our decisions, the things we're doing. We're saying yes, and then we're executing on our plan that we feel is best, whether that's rooted in intuition, market conditions, etc.
Right.
But if we can get into a space where the decisions that we make, we can always look at what can go right, I think it'll accelerate and scale our business and originators of the like around the country.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, if you think about it, so playing not to win is basically clamping up.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it's preservation.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's what ends up happening to a lot of people when you're preserving, when you're clamping up. That's where you're creating that ceiling.
Yeah.
Versus, okay, so I have 15 or 20 different real estate agent relationships. I just want to preserve them and not go further. You're clamping up. Versus, what did it take you to get those 15 or 20 relationships? It took that playing to win.
Yeah.
So what if you just played to win even further than that? So that's what ends up happening. It's scarcity over abundance in a sense when you kind of draw it back to that.
Yeah.
Okay. So the playing not to lose is a dangerous position to be in, and I think most of us at some point are in that position, and we have to be very self-aware of it to get ourselves out of that position.
Yeah.
And look at how to win. So I think it's an extraordinary topic. I hope for those that are listening today, they can figure out how to draw it back to their own individual story. Hopefully that serves as great inspiration. As you know, Max, as we talk about it all the time, we can always draw inspiration, whether it's from someone who's in our industry, whether it's athletics. Okay, you were watching the Masters over the weekend.
Yeah.
Okay, and you shared a great story with us at lunch. Or no matter what, I was recently in Paris. I took my family, my wife, and 2 beautiful children to Paris for the week, for exposure purposes. It's an extraordinary city. It's like a walking museum. And my wife wanted to go to the Christian Dior Museum, of course, my daughter too. And I'm walking in, my son, 15 years old, Alexander. I said to him, son, I know you're probably thinking right now, Dad, what are you going to get from this? Because there's, of course, dresses everywhere, okay, women's shoes everywhere. And I said to him, I said, son, we can always draw some type of inspiration from influential and inspirational people back to what it is that we do, whether it's in athletics, whether it be in loan origination and so on. So I'm saying that to say this. For the analytical people out there, myself included, when we expose ourselves to people, places, and things, okay, and if we take advantage of that exposure, okay, it can give us, as Mike always explained to me, the versatility, okay, getting us out of our analytical mindset and being more versatile in a situation and looking for the win versus the loss.
100%. And to that point, and I'll be brief with this story, but you mentioned watching the Masters.
Yeah.
So the pressure's high. They're on hole 17 out of 18. Every stroke counts at this point of the tournament. And you have this narrow fairway with people surrounding the golfer at that point. And he's standing up there with his club with a golf ball this big, trying to get it in a hole this big.
That's it.
400 yards away. 400 yards away.
That's a point.
Oh, well, we'll get into the different types of points. That one was an elbow point. That one was an elbow point. There's different points. If I did crossbody, that would be ridiculous.
No, those are.
That'd be ridiculous. But they're trying to get it 400 yards away, and it's dead silent. And all they have in that moment is what's going on in their thoughts. Now, if we can draw a parallel to what we do on a daily basis, how much do our thoughts, okay, and our personality quadrant, if we're not intentional in paying attention to it, how much can that get in the way of action, of execution? And in that moment, I was watching this golfer, and I'm thinking to myself, man, I would be nervous. I don't know what I would be able to do. But I can guarantee you that this golfer has practiced calming themselves down, focusing on the task at hand, and just executing. And so if we can draw that parallel in our business, I'm telling you, for originators out there listening, whether they're a day in this industry or 20 years, if we can focus on that part of our brain that kind of locks up, okay, to your point, and just push through that and focus on the wins, sky's the limit.
100%. Let's keep winning.
Thanks, Matt.